Hello everyone, how are you all? We're back. Another week has passed, and as such we're here with another episode of Elden Ring Lore Explained. I've really procrastinated on recording this one. This is being recorded Friday, so, I'm really bad at time management. My new semester of school has started back up again, so I'm gonna have to, figure out how I want to manage when I do everything. The next 3 episodes should be recorded in a batch, so we'll have some of those up on the Patreon for early access. So, today we are going to be talking about the most notable, the most important of Marika and Godfrey's children. A person that we don't actually technically meet or fight during the game. And that would be the fine fellow known as Godwyn the Golden. Or as we know him in the present, Godwyn the Death Prince, or the Prince of Death, however you want to phrase it. He was someone that we all expected to have a boss fight against, because it seemed like he was undead or whatever. But no, it turns out that he's turned into a big fish thing that's asleep or something. But before we get to that...
Apparently.
We'll get into that a
Allegedly.
bit. Oh yeah, I don't remember if I mentioned, but we have Neo here like last time, but we also have Bernice here, who I don't think has been in a video before.
Not one of these. Not
Yeah.
one of these, certainly.
Another one of our server members unfortunate enough to be European, and as such, his time zones are very different from ours. So here we are in an afternoon recording session.
I'll record these in the dead of night.
Now, for starters, Godwyn, as I mentioned, is one of the children of Marika and Godfrey. He is a member of the Golden lineage. As far as we can tell, he is presumably the one responsible for the Golden lineage descending down to people like Godfrey and Godric. Because we're not aware of any other notable children of Marika and Godfrey other than the Omen twins. So, presumably Godwyn's the one that's gotten a little busy. And it's not too surprising that he would be doing that, because he's, or was, a fairly important and popular fellow. When the ancient dragon Grandsax attacked Leyndell and started the war against the ancient dragons, Godwyn was the one leading that war. And as far as we can tell, he was like a big, huge, Chadley badass dragon slayer. Used lightning like Gwyn and stuff. Godwyn, Gwyn, not surprising. We learned a while back that Godwyn's name means friend of God. I suppose you could also take it as meaning like friendly God or something. Maybe you could interpret it like that. Because
Something.
Godwyn battles Fortissax, who was presumably either the leader or the champion of the ancient dragons. He defeated him, but instead of killing him, he befriended him. And this pretty much led to a truce between Leyndell and the ancient dragons. It was what led to Lanciax going and creating the dragon cult, and then it seems like Godwyn worked with Lanciax and Fortissax to create incantations for the dragon cult, which was then used to help further fortify the defenses of Leyndell and the Erdtree.
Yeah.
So essentially the Nameless King, but the good ending.
Yeah, it'd be like if the Nameless King didn't get
Yeah.
kicked out for being
The name-
decent.
For being the only nice motherfucker in Erdtree.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as far as we can tell, Godwyn was fairly popular amongst his demigod siblings. There is a sword that seemingly had a prayer to Godwyn after his death inscribed on it from Mikola. And, Mikola was a child of Marika and Radigan, So only Godwyn's half-brother. Technically the youngest of the siblings, and Godwyn being the oldest, and it seemed like Mikola still cared about him and got along with him. So, safe to assume the Golden was very popular amongst his family. And it was likely for that reason that he was the one targeted by the Black Knife assassins. And when you do the math, when you kind of look at all of the other options they would have had, it makes sense. They're working with Ranni. Ranni is an Empyrean, though she would have been actually a good choice for a target, assuming Marika wasn't the one who originally organized the Black Knife assassins. She would not want them killing her successor or whatever, because even if Marika wants to break free of the control of the Greater Will, it's safe to assume she probably still wants some kind of heir. Even if they're bringing about an age that's not the age of the Erdtree. So she wouldn't want them killing them. And then, on the other hand, they're working with Ranni, so it wouldn't make sense for them to kill her while she's the one helping them work out their plan. Unless they planned on betraying her after the fact. But it seems like that didn't happen until later as a result of Ranni's own machinations. So, can't do Ranni, who's not even Marika's child. So, first off, let's get Radigan and Renala's children out of the way. They're not the children of Marika. And, as such, aren't really demigods, although, Ranni's an Empyrean. Assuming, actually, I'm pretty sure we know Malenia and Mikola were already born at this point. Yeah, they were already here in the picture. Presumably both of them were already doing their things. Mikola was already creating the Erdtree. Malenia is already a huge badass. There would be no way in hell for them to kill either of those people. There's no way any of them could kill Malenia. And killing Mikola would probably be a bad idea. Also, since we see some of the Black Knife assassins helping to protect the path to the Erdtree, it's possible that they didn't even want to kill Mikola. They may be on good terms in some way, or that may not have been organized between them and Mikola,
Awesome.
but some of them may have supported the idea of the Erdtree or something. Because, I mean, if they are the ones who wanted to create those who live in death, who are rejected by the Golden Order, and as such are rejected by the Erdtree, the Erdtree would be something that they would like, because the Erdtree is supposed to be a home for those rejected by the Erdtree. But I digress. No killing either of those two. Not to mention, if they killed Mikola, they would be annihilated by Malenia. Though maybe they don't care about dying.
Yeah.
It seems like some of them don't, given how, Tish was willing to give up her life to protect Alecto. We go to the Golden Lineage demigods. 2 out of the 3 are omens. Most people don't even know they exist. Why would you kill them? So then we're left with the Golden Child. Godwyn, who everyone likes, is responsible for some pretty big influential stuff happening, and doesn't seem to be absolutely cracked like everyone else is. We actually don't know how strong Godwyn was. Presumably, definitely stronger than Fortissax. Fortissax is not the strongest creature that we encounter in the game. We encounter several other beings stronger than Fortissax. Presumably some of the other demigods are stronger than Fortissax. I would say quite a few of them are. So
I would probably debate that Godwyn is probably the 3rd strongest demigod, just after Radon and Malenia. Probably.
I mean,
that's at least how I've
it
always
would
figured it.
make sense from a lore perspective, because you have top 3 is one from each of the sets of children. You've got Radon from Radigan and Renala. Then you've got Malenia from Radigan and Marika, and then you would have Godwyn from Godfrey and Marika. That kind of makes sense. But also, Moog is really strong, actually. He gives you, I think he
Moog
gives
is a
you,
Krat.
I think he gives you like the third most runes out of any boss in the game. I think he gives you more than
Yes,
It
Placebo
just
yes.
doesn't
Sax.
give you like
Second.
500k or some shit.
No, Radigan
Pretty sure
and
it
the
gives you,
Elden
like,
Beast give you 500k. Melania gives you 480k. And I think Moog gives 420k.
Uh,
420.
let's see. I'm good. I don't know. Why?
It
Yeah, he
gave
gives you
us stupid amount.
420k.
Yeah, I was right. Yeah,
It gave
so
us stupid
Yeah,
amount of
we
runes.
don't know
420K.
until we're able to kill Godwyn in a potential future DLC. But based on runes, it seems like Moog was the strongest. But, you know,
Exactly.
probably gonna
Omen.
happen.
So,
Pray to Miyazaki.
yeah. The strongest one who doesn't have to call upon powers from an outer god, technically, and isn't locked in a sewer. So, you know, we go after
Yeah.
Godwyn. And, they murder his ass, somehow. I'm also questioning how did they accomplish that. Because from what we see in the opening cinematic, it seems like basically all of the Black Knife assassins gang up on Godwyn, restrain him, and then stab him to death. Almost like maybe Caesar style or something. Like at least one of them stabs
Most
him.
likely they jumped him.
He gets stabbed in like the back.
Most likely they jumped him.
Yeah.
It's them back, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like they fought him in battle, but I guess he wasn't so unbelievably powerful that, you know, the Black Knife assassins could just sneak up on him
Yeah.
and stab him in the back, and that would be enough to kill him. I suppose the...
And as we all know, a backstab does more damage than a
Right,
frontal
of
attack.
course. Not as much as a parry, though.
Of course.
I suppose the
Yeah,
Black
very-
Knives
Okay,
in lore are stronger than they are in gameplay, even though they're still kind of cracked in gameplay. But, like, they're weaker than Malekith's
though?
sword. And, well... Malekith probably still wouldn't be able to one-shot Godwyn even if you stabbed him in-game. You know, if Godwyn was like a boss enemy or something.
Yeah.
But I digress. They kill him. And this was seemingly supposed to produce the Hallowbrand curse mark, which would basically be the Mending Rune of Death, which would be used to add to the Elden Ring that those who live within death are part of the natural order. Well, this gets into some weird lore inconsistencies, because as far as I can tell, those who live within death didn't exist until after the Shattering. I think. I think we may have still had spirits prior to the Shattering, which are technically those who live within death. But it seems like most of those guys existed due to very specific circumstances. Whereas with those who live within death in the present, it's just like, oh, they just got kind of fucked over. Like, they were basically cursed. The Erdtree just didn't accept their souls. They weren't thrown back into the cycle of reincarnation. So, I don't know. Now, even though the Elden Ring isn't shattered, you can still add runes to it, because it's not technically a physical thing. It's a bunch of light bullshit. Kind of like that one sword you get that's like related to the two fingers that you can't block. It's like a sword made of light, or words, or something. I don't remember the name of it.
Both.
Yeah, light words. I don't know, look it up. That's what you guys are here for.
That's the objective.
Yeah.
You guys are here as like my support staff.
The coded sword.
That's
yeah,
it,
the coded
yeah.
sword.
Yeah. So, even if the Elden Ring hadn't been shattered by that point, it would theoretically be possible to create a new rune to add on to it and alter the Golden Order. And that may have been their intention. Or they were working with Marika, and his murder was intentionally part of the plan for freeing the lands between from the power of the Greater Will. I talk about it in the last video.
Yes.
However,
Reminder to go watch that video.
you
I
should.
haven't,
Not
but
enough of you
should.
have watched it. Go watch it. Something goes wrong with the plan. The Hallowbrand is split in half, and this is due to Rani also killing herself at the same time. But this is done with the intention of slaying her Empyrean flesh. So her body dies. She dies physically, whereas Godwyn dies spiritually. So his soul is no longer in there. He is now a soulless husk. But his body is technically still alive. Which would mean that, like, his bodily functions, his mind are still going on, but he has no soul. And this raises the question, what happens when one is alive but is stripped of their soul? We get things like this in some other FromSoft games. In Demon Souls, when you lose your soul, you go insane. In Dark Souls, you end up hollowing out, like you physically degrade, your body decays, but you remain alive, and eventually go insane. Seems like a lot of madness happens. Whereas here in Elden Ring, at least with Godwyn, and he may be a special circumstance due to being a demigod, it seems like the body changes without a soul. So, Godwyn's body is taken, and it's buried beneath the Erdtree in a place called the Nameless Eternal City. Why is it called this? I don't know. Some people think that, a lot of the map looks like a meteor crater, and we do know that the Elden Beast came from space, so it's possible that the Erdtree was basically planted by a meteor, and then, since the Erdtree is right there, whatever Eternal City was there just got annihilated. Or that Eternal City is just so ancient, and there are no more inhabitants there, that we just don't remember its name. That's also a possibility. I mean, we remember Nokron and Noxtella.
Yeah, we don't know, like... We don't know how long the... Yeah, we don't know how long the lands between have actually been around.
Yeah. Well, we
We
know
only
it's...
know about it post-Marka and all that shit.
Yeah, that's the only ones we really have a clear picture of. Other stuff like, Farum Azula is not I guess it's like technically part of the lands between. Some people say that like, the Shifra and Ainsel rivers are technically not part of the lands between. My guess is just that Eternal City, all of its inhabitants are gone, just no one remembers its name. Whereas with Noxtella and Nokron, there are still technically inhabitants there. So they are still known to some extent. No, it seems like those are still the original inhabitants, the Nox. At least Noxtella still has its original inhabitants. No, actually, there are still some of them in Nokron. You just have to go in further to reach them. They're the ones you don't get to until you get to where you can get the Mimic Tear and the Finger Slayer dagger. So Godwyn's buried there, under the Erdtree. Presumably this is sort of like an effort to return him to the Erdtree in some way, shape, or form. If his spirit is... if he's died spiritually, but not physically, I'm thinking that maybe means that, like, instead of his soul being returned to the Erdtree, it's just been cast out into whatever actual afterlife is supposed to exist. Because the Erdtree...
His soul went to Brazil.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. A fate even worse than death.
Truly.
It seems like the Erdtree... some people think that the Erdtree is some kind of parasite, which I think is very plausible. And it forces souls to be recycled through it. That's not what usually happens to them. So I guess Godwyn's soul went off somewhere else, or it may have just been deleted from existence. Like, his soul just doesn't exist anymore. But burying him under the Erdtree, like in the roots of the Erdtree, may have been an attempt to, like, physically return him to the Erdtree, in hopes that he could perhaps be reincarnated in some extent, or die a true death. Because that's what Mikola's prayer is, you know, please die a true death. The finger reader we find in the Nameless Eternal City is like, oh, Godwyn, you should have died a true death. As the first death of the demigods, you should have died a true death. And instead what happens is his body continues to grow and mutate into this big weird fish thing with arms, but it still has the long blonde hair. And its current state of being is very strange. Because he's not dead. It seems like he's asleep. But not like taking a nap asleep. At the very least, he's like comatose. At the worst, he may as well be brain dead, I'm thinking. But the fact that he's apparently dreaming suggests that no, actually, there's still something in there, essentially. Just not a soul, which is kind of terrifying. There is a void within Godwyn. So he's buried there. He is mutating into this thing. Fortissax tries to save him from this somehow, but ends up kind of just being, like, absorbed into the dream and corrupted. Or he traveled into the dream intentionally somehow. I have no idea how that would happen, but he's in there. And he ends up becoming the Lich Dragon Fortissax, because he is also eventually corrupted by the power of death, and those who live within death.
That seems like a very charismatic thing in this universe.
Yeah. Well, happens to everybody in Souls games.
Basically.
It is always happens to someone in Souls games. Dudes always get corrupted trying to save people. Every single goddamn time.
Just don't save people, it's as easy as that.
Ah, genius idea.
They would have known if they had played the Dark Souls franchise.
Actually, this almost sort of feels like a message given by some of the games. Don't save people. Save yourself. Otherwise, you'll just have to be put down like an animal. We find a second head of Godwyn underneath Stormveil Castle. It's very strange. There are a lot of these weird growths that we find around Stormveil. And those seem to be as a result of this visage of Godwyn growing there for some reason. It almost seems like him growing into the Erdtree, or the roots of the Great Tree, has resulted in, like, parts of him sprouting out in other places. And the most significant of which seems to be here under Stormveil. Why here specifically? I don't know. Maybe it has to do with all of the people that Godric has been killing and disposing of there. Or maybe it's because Godric is a descendant of Godwyn. Maybe it's drawn to him because of that.
To protect the family.
Yeah. Or consume the family. Who knows what it wants. Because Roger goes to this visage and tries to interact with it, but he ends up getting the death affliction from it, which ruins his legs. And is likely due to his interaction with the Death Prince Pustule, which we find there, which is a talisman that increases vitality, and that helps with resisting, you know, the death affliction. Now we have to wonder, will Godwyn ever wake up at some point? It seems like he might, because Thea is a deathbed companion, and the purpose of a deathbed companion is to absorb the energy and vitality of champions, and then lay with a deceased noble to resurrect them with that power, and essentially have them be reborn greater than ever. And that's kind of what she was doing. It seems like this was mostly done for the intention of producing the Mending Rune, but I'm pretty sure this could also lead to the awakening of Godwyn, of his full resurrection. Her doing the same thing she's done with other regular nobles, except this noble is the member of a demigod family, and is the Prince of Death.
And was apparently a fucking Giga Chad.
Yeah, apparently a giant, huge badass. If we break convention, and the DLC for Elden Ring, if we get it, is something new happening in the present, what we'll probably be doing is we'll probably be going back in time, probably to around the time of the Shattering, and we'll just fight actual Godwyn. There are actually multiple enemies, multiple bosses we could fight, like, prime versions of in the past, if we do another time travel DLC, you know, Prime Radahn, Prime Godwyn, we could fight Siraj. Yeah, fight Radahn again, except this time
Prime Radahn is just pre-nerf Radahn.
Oh, right, of course, yeah. Jesus. We could fight Siraj, like, normally, like, on his own. That would probably be cool. I imagine it would be kind of like the Leonine Misbegotten, but way cooler. Or it would be kind of like fighting Malekith, maybe, since they're both Beastmen. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, out of most of the things that are potential DLC material, Godwyn definitely seems like one of the best contenders for someone who'll be the prime focus of a DLC. I mean, he basically has a giant boss model. He is a giant fish.
Yeah.
The final boss is a giant fish that swims around while we fight it. It's really fucking annoying, so hopefully if we do fight that version of Godwyn in a future DLC, we'll fight him differently. You know?
Either make him move around less, or let us use the horse.
Let us use the fucking horse, for God's sake. If you're gonna have a giant enemy in a giant arena that moves around really quickly, let us use the horse. Anyway,
We can only hope.
I think that's pretty much all for Godwyn. He is not someone we know particularly much about, to be frank. Hopefully, if the DLC centers around him, we'll learn a lot more about the guy, because despite being the golden child of the golden lineage, we really don't know nearly as much about him as we do most of the other demigods, really. Even Morgott and Mohg.
Right.
We know a somewhat decent amount more about what they were doing. At least more so in the present. With Godwyn, it seems like a lot of the notable stuff he did was much further in the past, and that was pretty much it. There's like a really big gap in our knowledge of Godwyn. So, hopefully I'll be able to redo this video in the future, but instead of talking about Godwyn as the Prince of Death, we'll be talking more about him as Godwyn the Golden, which would be nice.
Godwyn Part 2.
Yeah, Godwyn Part 2, Godwyn Deluxe Edition. If we get DLC on the Godskins, we're gonna have to do one for them as well. But anywho, that's pretty much all for today's video. I hope it was fairly coherent, because the thing I did different this time around is I didn't use any notes. I didn't write shit to prepare for this video.
Well, I don't think there's much to write, considering how little we know of.
Yeah, exactly. I think that actually kind of applies for quite a few of the topics we have for the next several videos, is because a lot of them really don't have that much to talk about. They're fairly obscure. So in the next video, we're going to talk about the Greater Will and the Elden Beast. There's actually probably quite a bit to look at for the Greater Will. A lot of it's not going to be like really obvious surface level stuff. We're probably going to have to do in-depth analysis of like the incantations and shit, which will just be great. That'll just be fantastic.
Oh, that's gonna be amazing.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then we're going to talk about the Flame of Frenzy, which should be a little less complicated because it's a bit more obscure. Well, not as obscure. I'm pretty sure the Flame of Frenzy, we're given like almost everything on it up front, just through doing the quest line. And then we're just going to talk about the other assorted outer gods, including some that I didn't know about, like the Deathrite birds. They have an outer god. And apparently they were the first ones to use the power of death. Like, even before the Godskins, which is nuts.
Those cunts?
Yeah, those fucking assholes. I think I've beaten like one of them before. I think I beat the one in Limgrave and then just never bothered beating any of the other ones. Which is kind of funny.
There's one in the snowy area. He's a piece of shit.
Yeah, the one outside
One
Castle
of the
Sol,
most
I understand that one's terrible.
one of the most annoying fights in all of Elden Ring.
Yeah, though I think you can trick him into killing himself with fall damage. Unless they patch that out. And then there's the one in Caelid.
Yeah.
But that'll all be for the next few weeks. Ideally, I will be able to record those ones a few days before next Saturday, so we'll be able to, you know, put them up on the Patreon decently in advance of the YouTube release, so those of you who are on there and who are members of the $3 tier will be able to enjoy them a little bit earlier. Anywho, that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. We do episodes of Elden Ring Lore Explained every Saturday, and if you enjoy discussing Elden Ring lore with other people, or you just enjoy the content I produce in this channel, I highly suggest you check out my Discord server. I have a link to that down in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys around.
It is a hellish place.
The Discord is a pretty awful place, yeah. You should join at your own risk. I'm sure if you're an insane person like Bernice, you'll be able to enjoy your time there.
Indeed.
Anywho, thank you all for watching. Until next time, I'll see you around. Take care. Bye-bye.